Let me introduce myself. My name is Anton Zotin. I'm GL Coach, Agile Coach. I'm Anton and I'm an alcoholic. I have started my career quite a while ago when in Russia Agile was not a bad word, but not even known as a word in 2004. And since then I've changed a lot of different companies and positions, and around 2010 I've decided that I'm tired of this all, and I like helping people and companies suffer a little bit less in terms of developing software. And in 2005 I've left for Berlin, and since then I live in Berlin for 5 years, and independent consulting is still a valid option to suffer a little bit less during developing of software. What are we going to talk about, and who is this presentation aimed at? In Russia, in the last several years, Agile is somewhat of a hype. Everyone wants to get Agile. Everyone wants to get into this transformation because Sberbank has decided so, and why don't we follow Sberbank in this? And often I got invited, especially in Russia, to carry on an Agile transformation, and I'm asking, why would you want me to do this? And the answer is, oh yes, Sberbank decided so we wanted it too. And no one understands why this is needed. So I decided to create some presentation to explain to you what will the cost be of that transformation. Of course, you understand that everything's going to be fine, but what is the price? What amount of blood, sweat, and tears you're going to spend on this? So this presentation answers this question about this amount of blood, sweat, and tears. And second, it gives you a number of bad advice about how to make your life worse, and a number of advice on how you can keep the system afloat. So why would it be useful to you? First of all, warned means armed, so you will have some formal criteria based on which you will be able to define where you are in this transformation. What are we going to do? What good things and what bad things you can do to avoid harm or to mitigate risks, and we'll start with this graph. Ethically or ecologically unwise Agile consultants like to show that when the owners of the business ask them what the results gonna be, and they say, here is the your productivity graph. You have some level, and during the transformation it will be hard and the performance will suffer, but sooner or later the spacecrafts will start to fly, and your Agile will give you a lot of extra efficiency. So I want to run through some transformations and land this graph on the reality. First big lie is we don't know. First of all, we don't know where the zero is in terms of performance. And when we launch the Agile transformation, we cannot promise it. We cannot guarantee, neither to the business nor to the project, that the productivity will not go below zero. We can say we know what the productivity is. Where will it go? And how long will it spend there? We don't know. And this is a cruel truth that you need to know when you are part of the transformation. Second transformation of this graph, and before I show you the second graph, I need to explain where it came from. I was trying to find a model that describes well what happens. And I was thinking, what is Agile? So Agile is a mindset. It's not processes or approaches. It's a mindset that helps you when we take how we perceive the tasks we perform differently. So what is the science that deals with thinking? Of course, it's psychology. And I started to dig in psychology, and I found very good articles and books by a very well-known psychotherapist, Eugene Satir, who is describing some phases when the person comes to a psychotherapist. that show what happens, what changes. And when I was reading this book, I was shocked at how exact the depiction is. So this graph shows us this trend, and I will use it to guide you through the agile transformation, explain to you what you can see there, and give you some advice on how you can improve or worsen your situation. So it's Satir model because of Virginia Satir. Status quo is the first part. When we never talked about the transformational idea or agile, some characteristics of this is that the system is stable. If you talk to people, like, how are you doing this? They will say, yeah, it's happening this way for quite a while. There's not been any significant changes. And if you don't touch the system, something is wrong. Then all the people that are participants of this system know what they do and how they should be doing this. Like, they come at 9 and leave at 5. And if someone done something wrong, then he pays the fine. And different parts of the system pay different price for the system to stay the same. What does it mean? Everything is fine. Business is not going down. Everything is okay. But, for example, team lead Vasya is working 80 hours a day. He has problems with his health. His wife is leaving him. But he pays, the system keeps working. So he pays extra price, but our organization keeps staying stable. And what else? Like, something is very, very fuzzy in terms of how it goes on, how it happens. Okay, it's better this way. I will start here. And what is important here, for the system as a whole, the comfort is more important than the happiness. People say, like, yeah, we are in a marsh here, and the smell is not very pleasant, but at least people know if you go here, you'll be eaten by a crocodile. Here, you will get a bonus. And we are moderately happy here because you don't know what's going to happen if we leave the marsh. And here comes Agile or some other transformational idea, not only Agile can be this idea. So what is Agile? What it means for our system? It means that this is a threat to an equilibrium. The system was stable, and we want to put it out of the stability. So look. The transformation hasn't started yet. You just mentioned the word Agile, and the system has already started to protect itself because it doesn't want to leave the achieved equilibrium. So what you will see in your company whenever you say Agile, the system will start rejecting this idea, saying, no, Agile is not applicable, we are a unique company, we have unique processes, this is not gonna work with us. What else? You can ignore. We have a team meeting or all-hands meeting to discuss Agile. Well, I have a lot of work. I know that I'm a big boss, but I will be doing something important instead of going to that all-hands meeting. So Agile is not for me. What else? You can say, yeah, Agile is a great thing, but not this month, or not this quarter, not this, ideally not this year. Maybe in 5 years we will definitely start an Agile transformation. You can start fighting it. If the people have formal or informal power, they will just block this transformation. They will create new blockers, use politics, games, or make Agile part of the system. For example, the hierarchy or the org structure of the company will not be changed, but we will be implementing Scrum and Kanban on the lowest parts of the org chart, and we will get Agile by doing so. And this all happens before even you have started to really do the transformation. And there will be a victim, like a person leading the transformation, like, for example, myself, being the external consultant. We have a unique company. You need to understand our specifics. You cannot be doing or running this transformation without this understanding. Or If it's someone internal who will lose all the credibility and friendship and will be just criticized, like you just went to some European seminar and brought some new ideas from there. How can you worsen this situation? Here are the further steps. You can start working with all those reactions. Like Vasa, you do not want to implement Agile. Let me tell you what it is. Or Semyon Semyonovich, you start playing the political games and I will start playing political games against you. Or you can fight the reactions by finding people, punishing them, firing, or promise some bonus if they support the transformation. But what's happening here is those reactions are provoked by the system's behavior. So the system does it without understanding why they do it. It's unconscious. It's deep inside. If you spend your effort on finding those reactions, you will just be losing time instead of doing what is needed for your organization. Okay, so what are the good advice I can give you? First of all, how do you remove the system from that status quo system? You need to create the critical mass of discomfort so that the system wants to leave the equilibrium itself. You can say how terrible your economics is. This year we have less money than next year, the sales are dropping, the market is going the other way, competitors. We can talk about competitors. We cannot deploy a banking application for 3 years already, and some hipsters in Moscow region just did it in 1 year. You can talk about people like our team lead who does 80 hours a week. Imagine he leaves for a sick leave and for a couple of weeks like last year, and what happens then? It's terrible. You can talk about problems. Like, let's discuss what problems we have in our company, what issues. One more advice. You can run a training. I'm running those for quite a while, and I noticed you come to the company, you do a great training, and people get sad. Why? Because they understand there's a brighter and better world where a lot of companies reside, but they have that, marsh and old school system that doesn't work. So all those advice will work, but if you did this all, but the system doesn't want to leave status quo, probably you do not need Agile. Those critical mass of discomfort can be inexistent. You can use this as a test. If you ran all those activities and nothing happened, then you don't need Agile. Good. But if the system has decided to leave that status quo, it goes into the chaos phase. Where is it? There's no Agile here. The system just recognized that it wants to leave the previous stage, but the system didn't change yet. So this magical phase, the psychotherapists say it's not definable, it's very hard to understand what happens. There is no system, it's like prehistoric magic and prehistoric chaos happening. It's the toughest one. We people are not designed to exist in chaos. We need something to rely on. So when we are in chaos, we are very stochastic. We feel uncomfortable. We seek for stability with being ready to pay any price. We can do whatever it takes to reach stability. Try to get back. Of course, it was a marsh and it was not very good and the smell was bad, but some people will just say, no, we want to go back. What else? Nervous breakdowns start. So people are so uncomfortable that they start behaving crazy. They start losing their temper, guys start to fight, girls start to cry on the retrospective analysis. I just saw it. And of course, also it is very hard to focus. So how do I do my job in this chaotic environment? And as it's hard to get concentrated and all the effort is spent on just keeping yourself alive, the relationships deteriorate. So yesterday everyone was lunching together and, drinking beer afterwards and talking tales, but now it's a dead field. Everyone with, just hedgehogs with pikes turned inside and not talking to each other. And of course, at some point in time, people start to look for love outside of the family, and the recruiter calls and says, we have love everywhere, comfortable conditions, and people start to look closer at those opportunities, saying, hey, yeah, probably it's a good idea, because here it's very uncomfortable and difficult, and outside it might be better. So this all can lead to the reduction of productivity. At some point in time, the whole company may have zero output, because IT is intellectual work, and when you're psychologically uncomfortable, you cannot talk about any real work, like only check mail and change status in Jira and stuff like that. So beautiful picture, right? You don't have Agile, you just announced it. The system just decided to change, but all those crazy things start happening. Some bad advice on how you can worsen the situation. If you influence the situation, you can start to declare that what's happening is bad. Like, what is this kindergarten? Stop that immediately. Start working. What else? Try to control this. Okay, if this doesn't work, Wasa go here, Peter go here, Masha, you do this, by tough micromanagement. What's happening in that situation is, by doing this, you are trying to somehow control the situation, but you are ridding yourself of all the last resources you have for yourself. What else? You can launch another initiative, like Scrum doesn't work. We have started the transformation 2 weeks ago, and Scrum doesn't work. Okay, let's start Akara. Google and Intel are using this, and if we start Akara in parallel, everything's going to be all right. What's happening? People have not yet understood the previous idea, but you've just hammered them on another one. Now everything's going to work? No. What else? You can try going back. If you have some formal or informal power, you can push the whole system backwards and undo the transformation. What's happening is you've spent some energy to explain to the system that it cannot live in that paradigm, and now you're trying to put it into the paradigm that the system understands they cannot live in. I don't know what's going to happen with people then, but probably nothing good. What else? You can get rid of the transformer, or the champion of the transformation. Like, he read too many books, let's kick him out, and we're gonna solve it all by ourselves. Like, come to a psychotherapist, understand the crisis point that makes you feel uncomfortable, blame the therapist for this, and leave him. If you still want to somehow support your people, some kind of advice, what can you do? First, be prepared. You should know that this phase exists, and no organization can avoid this. Be prepared financially. Have a financial proof, financial airbag. Warn the stakeholders, like the bear before going to sleep in winter. Eat more. It's like a caterpillar turning into a butterfly. You need to go through the second phase of the cocoon. It cannot do anything. It just hangs and bubbles and boils on the branch. To become a butterfly, the caterpillar needs to get enough resources for this process. So the chaos phase is that cocoon. Nothing is happening, but the transformation is going on. So as we say that people will be uncomfortable, psychological safety is extremely important. whatever can be done to, to help people feel better, everything you can do needs to be done. This will be very helpful. One very important factor is to say nobody is going to be fired, because people start to be uncomfortable because the org chart is going to change, the process is going to change, and many people think that they will become unneeded, like the middle management, because the managers will not be needed, so the scrum masters and product owners will be leading the pack. And of course, when people are afraid of them being fired, they're gonna do stupid things. Officially acknowledge that feelings and emotions are okay. People often say in our industry, be a professional, be a specialist. Like, for me, it's be a robot, don't be a person. And it would be very helpful in that transformation chaos phase to say, hey guys, the fact that we are struggling and we feel uncomfortable, it's absolutely okay. We are people. We are changing paradigms of our existence. And for 20 or 30 years we've been living in a previous paradigm, and it's going to be another one. And if, as we say, we understand and acknowledge feelings and emotions, it's great to invite a coach who will be talking to people who are really not comfortable personally, on a personal basis. And maybe a strange advice, but just try to relax and enjoy, because the transformational phase is very unique for a person. We are very rarely in something like that phase. We try to seek stability. So if you're lucky and your company at some point in time understands that there's new reality, you will leave the chaos phase. How do you see it as a person who goes to a therapist? For example, he goes to a therapist, he's in a chaos phase, he understands he cannot live like that any longer, he doesn't feel well, therapist does provide some support, and at some point in time, person wakes up, and not him, but his unconscious part feels that there's a new paradigm of existence. He can live differently, and the person keeps thinking that he doesn't feel well, everything's bad, but the unconscious part works, and people around say, you look fresher, you look better. And the person would say, no, everything's wrong, everything's bad. But when we talk about an organization and the critical mass of people, the unconscious part wakes up and says, well, it's worth trying, Agile is worth trying. Then the system is leaving the chaos stage and goes to the next stage of integration. And if you look at the performance in the integration phase, it can be really fluctuating from the worst levels of even chaos phase, and up to something that is higher than in the previous phase, in the previous life. So what you can observe here is the moment when the system just starts to try new things for the first time. And the feelings are very much like to a romance period, to start a romance. They are not very sane. There's so much euphoria that they don't really behave well. Like they're trying everything, and the system here is like a kid. You don't expect from a kid a very high performance. Maybe something will work, maybe something will not, but in general the performance is unpredictable, and there can be a lot of failures along the way, because how do kids learn and become grown-ups? Through a lot of mistakes. And as we talk about mistakes, they can bring a lot of harm and a lot of good things. But if we prohibit to make mistakes, then people don't learn, and the system doesn't grow up. And people who are used to them being professionals and specialists will be very often disappointed, because they're used to some pattern that is good and brings them good results, and when they start doing something new, they constantly fail, and people will get upset because of that. Like you had an architect in previous organization. For example, he came and said everything should be done this way, and everyone does it this way, and he feels comfortable, and everyone feels comfortable. And now Agile comes, and people say you cannot now give orders to the developers, and people stop listening to him, and he starts drinking and gets very upset. And this all will be supported by the fear of coming back to chaos. So people will be afraid, and everything will be infused with the fear of coming back to chaos. And this will also take some energy. How can you worsen the situation? How can you make it even worse for your organization? For example, start asking for the results. Like, okay, the transformation is over. Jeff Sutherland promised 800% of productivity. Where are they? I want to see them immediately. Pressurizing the system. Okay, you are not giving me 800% of productivity, but at least 8 of 10 teams will show me 400%. Or I will fire you. Or you can say to the whole world, investors and your customers, that we have finished the transformation, we are now agile, we are cool. That's very bad also. What are you going to do to help your organization? First, you need to admit that making mistakes is okay. Safe to fail environment from like English means that it's okay in our company to fail, because only through making mistakes we can learn. Second, you can support your whole organization by learning, by training. As many organizations feel like we have a budget for person XYZ rubles that we can spend a year, and most often people spend that budget like, you need to spend it, okay, I will go somewhere. So integration phase is when any amount of money invested into training will work very well, because the system wants to learn. People want to train, they're interested, they really do want to get that knowledge. And moreover, they will not only get it, but they will want to apply that knowledge. Because this is one of the most important elements when people not only create something, but they apply it immediately to trainings, meetups, conferences, everything. Like, listening to presentations, library, everything will be consumed by the people. Not like ordinary, Vasya, you need to go to training. Yeah, well, okay, I will. So you will have new key positions that will have different reality from the company. Like you will have Scrum Masters, Product Owners. The tasks of your managers are very different now. So it will not be a bad idea to invite mentors to mentor the key positions, to help people go through their personal career development, so that someone more mature would be helping and giving some advice. It would be also good to keep a therapist and or coach to walk the key people managing that transformation in contact with the reality, so that they don't leave to space and stop understanding what's going on. And of course, having trust in people, believing in people. They will go through this. This is just a stage, and everything's going to be better. And then, sooner or later, the system will go into the new status quo stage. What characterizes this stage? The system is stable again. What does it mean? You don't touch it, it stays like this. Simple example, Scrum team, you have a Scrum team, Scrum Master and Product Owner, for example, leave for India for 1 month. They decided to do so. They come back in 1 month, and the product is not ruined, everything's okay, the team keeps, running sprints, and the product is okay, backlog is fine, the users and stakeholders are happy, then the system is stable. If you come back and you see ruins there, then the system is not stable and you are just in the integration phase. It's a new also productivity level. You don't even need to measure this. You just talk to the most skeptical people in the organization that were the most skeptical in the beginning, and they say, yeah, obviously the transformation is working. We see us working on a different quality level. And what else? What is happening in our company is a new reality. It's just ordinary. So the testers leave for some meetup on testing. They talk to other people, like unit tests, auto tests, continuous deployment. Do you have it? They say, no, we don't. How do you live like this? It's 21st century. Everyone lives like this. And it's like brushing your teeth in the morning. It's a new reality that is very ordinary. And of course it's comfort and happiness. So people are not only comfortable, but they are happy to go to work every day. So even this picture can be spoiled. For example, first of all, you can allow for previous behaviors, like remember how to be a bad manager, how to punish, how to fine, and you need to monitor this. This culture is new, it's not yet set up, and any patterns from previous times will be spoiling the situation. You can hire without the cultural fit. Like a product owner, you can hire from Uncle Vasya with 30 years working in government agencies, and his goal was always to jump the career stairs. Probably you will not be a best product owner. What else? You can say, oh yeah, we can relax. If you relax and stay in the same situation, you will not be successful, because it's like in Alice in Wonderland. You need to be running to just keep on the same spot. You need to always be improving. What good things can you do? This is a good moment to say something publicly about yourself, like go to a conference and authorize yourself this result. Yes, we have done this, we have achieved this, this was cool. And an important point is using not the I word, but we word. We as a team were able to go through this difficult way, because this was really difficult. Because everyone who stayed in your company, they have suffered all those terrible things I was talking about because of your company. And you need to be really grateful to them for this. And it would be a good idea to run global retrospective analysis about how we can keep evolving, how can we avoid staying in the same place. Because what is Agile? It's not some one spot where you stand and you are proud that you are Agile. It's some way. It's a process. It's a progress to being ideal, and you can never be 100% ideal, 100% Agile. You can be better, you can be more flexible, and this way we will be using. And all those global retrospectives will help you keep getting improvements, and I wish you a successful journey on this way. Thank you very much. Okay, so we have some question. Slido. Whom did you work with? Can you give specific examples? Why specifically Sberbank? Like Sberbank invented Agile in Russia. Looks like advertising. Start with the end. Why Sberbank? And is it advertising? No. It happened to me that my personal agile story has started long before Sberbank really started that transformation. But when Herman Graf said publicly that he wants to get agile, this has created a boom, a big blast on the agile market in Russia, because what was happening before and after that is incomparable. This is why I mentioned Sberbank, because these words have made this market into something full of gold and diamonds, and a lot of new experts have appeared saying, yeah, we will implement agile for you in very fast and very cheap. And they don't think about what terrible consequences can come out of bad implementation. And of course, not Sberbank was the one bringing the agile. It exists for many dozens of years, and even before Sberbank, there was a lot of companies working using agile. So, whom did I work with? And if I can give examples, in Russia I worked with companies like PepsiCo, Deutsche Bank branch in Russia. Abroad I was working with Daimler, CBS Bank, Boeing, Nokia. I hope I've answered this one. Thank you for the presentation. Who was drawing this? They're great. Oh yeah, they're definitely great. My wife drew them, was drawing them, and she's an illustrator professional. Who are those creatures with eyes? Are they thoughts? Huh, I never asked her. I need to ask her, what are those creatures? Yeah. If the Scrum Master and owner have left and the system is stable, why would you be paying them? Furthermore, oh, well, look, why do you need to pay them is because they will be helping this system get even better. For me, the Scrum Master and the product owner are the role models of people who try, by whatever they can, to become unnecessary for the system. In reality, this will not happen in most of companies, never. But if you try to push for that behavior, then the team will be getting better and better. It will be self-organizing and product-oriented. I have not seen any team where those positions were absolutely unneeded. I saw companies where those positions are very dissolved and the team was able to do pretty much everything, but the team was still needing those people because they were understanding, they were mature enough to understand they don't understand this or that specific aspect, and they needed to go to the Scrum Master to understand how they should be doing this or that thing. I don't think they will be unnecessary. A promise not to fire. Is it just a promise? No, this is not just a promise. People inside of them, they have a great mechanism inside called bullshit detector. And people are very good bullshit detectors, and they feel very well if it's just a promise or this will happen this way. And it's extremely important that people feel with that bullshit detector that there will be no terminations and layoffs. And I worked with some companies that gave those promises, and it was a real promise, a real guarantee. How many companies have you guided through the transformation? What was the longest period of chaos? How long was the period of time where the company was not releasing anything? I cannot say easily. I'm doing consulting starting 2010. How long was the longest chaos period? Probably the longest one I saw in on the scale of. It's an important disclaimer here. If the company is big enough, like hundreds of thousands of people, the whole people cannot be transformed in one step. It's a recipe for failure to kill the business and kill the company. So a good idea is to take a part of the company that you can somehow separate and then transform it. The biggest scale I saw, and I would not recommend to repeat it, is 200 people. And they were in the chaos mode for about a year. And that case, they've hired the professional therapists and coaches. Something like 30% left, answering the question of how many people have left, and all the psychological effects of those were seen, psychosomatic illness and stuff like that. And we were able to catch this at the very last point in time and bring people to work one-on-one with the key people. What is the percentage of companies that are unable to switch to Agile? What are the main obstacles to this? I don't know the percentage. It's very hard to somehow quantitative analysis is hard. And I think there's a lot of companies. Why? In medicine, there's a term. I keep forgetting the term itself. But it means that if a person was smoking 3 packs a day for 40 years, and now he says, like, I'm COVID, I don't feel quite well, help me, save me. The doctor says, well, we cannot do anything. You've been smoking for 40 years for 3 packs a day, and like supporting therapy for some years that you have left, and that's it. There's a lot of companies that are in that stage, and nothing will help them. So if you talk about Sberbank, if I'm advertising it or not, I'm not sure they will succeed. I'm not sure. Given the scale and scope of them, and the gap between what is called Agile and where Sberbank is, I'm not sure that this delta can be covered in the years that are left. There's a term called disruptive innovations, like when some innovation comes from somewhere and destroys the business segment totally. And I'm not sure that the Sberbank will be able to get Agile before that disruptive innovation kills them. A great example in Europe, TomTom Navigation. They were selling automotive navigation for a huge amount of money. They were just kings of the world. Some thousands of hundreds of euro per month they were asking for their navigation. And at some point in time, Google announces Google Maps for free. I know people who were working in TomTom when this day happened. The whole company felt like someone has died. People were overwhelmed and panicked. It's still has not yet recovered. Okay, what are the performance metrics before and after the transformation are used in your practice? Well, you need to understand that most of the metrics through bullshit detector, they are detected as bullshit, and the metrics that make sense or that specifically say whether the business is okay or not. It's time to market, like how fast you deliver stuff, and all the product metrics, like the number of money, number of users, retention, everything that you need to be measuring explicitly. If they don't improve, there's no Agile. It's like, just building a facade that shows that you're Agile. How do you explain to the customer that he uses the bad advice, like asking for 800% and doing pressing? Well, I pity you. I feel sorry for you. And first of all, you need to show the presentation because this will change the understanding a little bit. But this is, of course, not enough. And the English statement, English proverb, is change your company, which means you need to try to change the situation for as long as you have opportunities. After that, you just give up and change the situation completely. There's no third option. There's no magic bullet to do so. If you still have questions, you can keep asking them outside. Thank you. Thank you very much.